So I have a question there because it seems like one recurring theme, not only in how you built your businesses, but in how you kind of like started from your teens and into your early 20s, is that you go all in when you want something. What is something you notice among maybe competitors that you can tell kind of? You get what I'm saying? Like when there's other writers, your peers, they're also aiming for the same magazines, or the fitness people who are aiming in the same contest. What is it that you were doing differently than everybody else? Like what was the mindset there that was different?
Yeah, so for me, and this is actually something that I teach now, I try to stay extremely focused on what my objective is and not worry about the other people who are doing X, Y, and Z, because now I'm comparing myself to so and so, or I'm thinking about this guy, and instead of thinking of the end goal, the outcome, or the objective. So I think the main thing that was probably different is that other people tend, in business and writing and whatever, tend to be consumed with the competition when I'm just ultra focused on what my end goal is. And with writing, I knew what I had to do. And no matter how many other people were crowding the space submitting articles as well, I knew if my articles became the best that they possibly could be, then it didn't matter what everyone else was doing, then I
Right.
would get published.
The rest
So,
would take care of itself.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then did you find that like your focus was naturally kind of good, or were you like, because most people would consider themselves having ADD, right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I don't know anything, or I'm not good at it, or maybe Joel had a knack for it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you got a lot of that. Oh, you're a natural. So like, how much of it was actually conscious effort to like enhance your focus versus you just kind of having that knack for it?
Well, I don't think that I really had a knack for focus. I believe that I was very intentional about it. And if I wanted to do something or accomplish something, then I was all in on it. And I would learn as much as possible, and I would absorb as much as possible. And I would try to be the best that I could be. And I do a lot of self-experimentation. Definitely wasn't that like I had this gift for just being ultra focused, but it was so important to me that I became ultra focused,
Gotcha. Yeah.
And for me, a lot of people say, you accomplished so much, you did this, you did that. Like, how did you stay focused on your goal? And I'm like, well, the goal was the most important thing to me at the time. So I just prioritized what was most important. It became natural once I had my priorities in order. And a lot of people, I think, they overthink the whole focus thing, and it's just concentrate on what you're most passionate about and what your ultimate goal is. And if you want to achieve it that bad, whatever's most important is going to trump everything else. You're going to prioritize it in front of other things.
Gotcha. And then once you get success, it builds momentum and confidence. Just keep going and going and going.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So continue from there. You basically, at this stage, you start getting published, you start developing some confidence in your writing, and that leads to your first book that you published.
Yeah, so my first book, which is actually another series of failures to even get published.
How old are you at this time?
I was 24 years old.
Okay.
So I'm 24 years old, and I just started teaching. I think this is my second year teaching. And I had been writing articles, which were paying me, I was a freelancer. I was getting paid a couple $100 an article. It wasn't anything that was going to pay the bills, but I was developing my platform. And then I had this idea for a book based on an article that I wrote about how to use your favorite foods to accelerate fat loss, which I thought was a very powerful concept. It's just about how our bodies go into starvation mode when we decrease calories, and how you can actually regulate your fat-burning hormones by having a cheat day and eating some of your favorite foods, enjoy some pizza. It was like a message that I thought would resonate very well with the weight loss crowd. And it proved to be it proved to be well accepted in the end. By ultimately, I got a book deal, and for somebody who was at my position, I got $100,000 advance, which is very significant in the traditional publishing world.
How many publishers rejected your book before that?
So it was really not publishers, but it was agents. So there's all these gatekeepers and everything, right? It's like the editors for the magazines, and then it's the agents to get you in front of the editors for the books. So I needed an agent. No one's going to take an unsolicited proposal from an author that they never heard of. You need that agent go-between to be your source of credibility with the publishers. So I was looking for an agent, and I got connected with a few different people from magazine editors that I had come to know through writing articles, and it was just really slow going. Somebody would take a month to get back to me, and then they would ultimately say they had a conflict of interest. It was good, but they couldn't work with me. And then it was another month goes by, I submitted to somebody else. They had a different vision for the book. They wanted it to be a paper book. They were thinking really small. I was thinking really big.
Right.
So it was like a series of 4 or 5 different agents that I had submitted to, and we're like getting 6 months into this. I'm getting really frustrated. Like, this is a winning concept. I felt like almost mass submitting to 100 agents at once, although that's frowned upon in the industry because you don't want multiple people to accept your project.
Right.
And then you have to tell somebody like, oh, I already went with somebody else. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like the one at a time thing was like
Taking too long.
Yeah, it was taking way too long, but that was how I was told to do it. So I said, I'm going to give this one last try. I contacted an editor at Men's Health. I said, do you know anybody else? I talked to this guy, I talked to this guy, I talked to this lady. Ultimately, it didn't work out. Do you know anybody else that would be a good fit? And he gave me somebody's name, a guy, Mel Berger. And said, well, Mel Berger, I don't know him personally. Can't give you any contact information, but I know that he's worked on a number of big books. He's worked on The Zone with Barry Sears. He's currently working with Montel Williams on his book. He worked with LL Cool J on his fitness book. He's like, I think he might be a good fit for the project. So I didn't get any direct contact information, no intro or anything like that. So it was time for me to like put my detective hat on and just trying to get in touch with this guy. I found like on the Wayback Machine or something like that an email address for him, and I emailed him, and unfortunately it still was a good email address. He got back to me relatively quickly and said, it sounds like an interesting concept. I'm going to read your material this weekend and I will get back to you on Monday. Which he did. He was the fastest person to get back to me. Monday he contacts me and says, I love it. Let's go to work. I'll send you an agency contract and we'll see what we can do for you. Signed the contract. 2 days later, he gives me a call and says, I just had lunch with somebody who was an editor-in-chief at Random House, which is one of the biggest New York City publishers. Yeah. He's the editor-in-chief at Random House, and they won an exclusive submission for the rights to the book. So I said, well, what would you do? They said, normally we'd start with an exclusive. If the deal is not materializing or it's not big enough, then we'll submit elsewhere. But I think you'll be in really good hands with these people as long as they come to play. So I went to New York. I had a meeting. I over-delivered, performed well in the meeting. I got a call the next day and said they're offering $100,000 for the book. I think if we take some other meetings, we might be able to drive up the price a little bit. But ultimately, I think this is the right team. And we had really good energy in the room in the meeting, so I felt like it was a good team. So the editor-in-chief there was Heather Jackson, and she had worked with Tim Ferriss on 4 Hour Workweek, on 4 Hour Body.
And what year is this?
This is going back probably like 2006-ish, somewhere around there.
And how old are you now?
I'm 25. Yeah.
Well, no, now, today.
Today, 36.
36, got it, yeah.
Yeah, so this was 11 years ago. She took my project on. We went through the whole editorial process, the publishing, the book launches, and the book flops. For all intents and purposes, the book flops. I mean,
And you got an advance for $100,000.
Yeah, I got an advance for $100,000, which that's based on a 15% royalty of the cover price. Has worked out to be like $3 and something per book, right?
Gotcha.
I think in total that book to this day has sold maybe 5,000 copies, right? So 5,000 copies times like $15,000 that I actually earned of that advance. But that's the way the publishing industry works. It's kind of a controlled, legalized gambling,
Gotcha.
They're gonna put an advance out there. There's nothing in the contract that says like I have to pay it back or anything like that if it doesn't perform.
Yeah.
It's an advance against royalties that come in. I wouldn't make any additional royalties until that was made up. But the fact that I didn't actually sell that many copies, didn't affect me in any way.
Gotcha.
Other than the fact that I felt like this was the end of my career. It wasn't really even that, because they're used to that in the publishing industry. They take risks on first-time authors and stuff, and think like it's going to be big. I'm actually very good friends with the editor still now, and we do some cool stuff together, and we're looking to rekindle the relationship and maybe do another book now.
But at that time, when you got $100,000, what's going through your mind at 24?
Yeah,
so it's probably the biggest check you've ever seen in your life.
Right, I had a $25,000 check from Body for Life, and then like next thing you know, I get a $100,000 check from a publisher. I'm a teacher making $42,000 a year. And I'm like, well, this is it. I really felt like that was the break that I needed. I freaking plowed away with all the article rejections. Finally made it in that industry and became a published author in trade magazines. I dealt with all the rejections from all these agents. And here I am. After I got the right agent on board, it turned around really quickly. Got a $100,000 book deal. This is it. Like, this is the path to my future right here.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a New York Times bestselling author. I wanted to share and inspire in the health and fitness and nutrition category with multiple books, future books. So then the book launches and the book flops, doesn't do well at all. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, I'm never going to get another book deal. You know, the people are going to see the performance of this book, and then that's the end of the road for me when it comes to being an author. At the same time, I'm thinking, what's plan B or what's plan C? You know, I can go back to teaching and just live an average life, or I can try and figure it out. So.
And at this time, are you aiming to be like a multimillionaire? Is that like a goal?
My goal at that time was to make $20,000 a month. That was my goal.
Why 20?
That's just the number I picked. You know,
just because it's $250,000 a year or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, I was making $40,000 a year as a teacher and a couple $100 here and there on articles.
Yeah.
But I said to myself, if I can make $20,000 a year, I mean $20,000 a month, like I'm freaking set. You know, like
How does that number compare to your mindset now?
Yeah, well, obviously we smashed that goal, and then we smashed another goal, and then it was to make $100,000 a month, and then the iPad years, full calendar years where I made over $1 million a month.
Yeah.
So the $20,000 was obviously because I hadn't experienced anything greater at that point in time, and that was so much higher than where I was at currently.
Right.
And I feel, with people in goal setting, that's how it works, right? You set a goal that seems kind of ambitious compared to where you are now, but once you hit that goal, it's either you're going to just get comfortable there, or you're going to realize that, hey, I was here and I achieved this huge goal. Now that I'm here, I can probably set the bar a little bit higher and achieve that. And we just went through that cycle.
So you do it in steps. You didn't do it like I want to make $100 million. You
were
just like, let me make $20,000 a month.
As a high school teacher, like $100 million at business is like, I never would have even dreamed that or thought that at that point.
Right.
If you guys enjoyed that video, be sure to hit that subscribe button right now, because every week we bring you the very best in personal development content, interviews, and insight to help inspire you to take your life and your dreams and make them a reality. And also, if you want to know how to book dream guests the same way I have, you can check the link below for my top 3 secrets. So if you have a podcast or a show or whatever it is and you want to collaborate with them, if you click that link below, I'll give you those top 3 secrets to help you get in touch with anybody. And also, don't forget that The Passionate Few is available on media platforms as well. So you can subscribe to the podcast. And until next time, thank you for being one of the passionate few.